What's up, Ethan? Here with Ethan Bence, one of my smartest friends. And Ethan is a killer
You
when it
sure?
comes to
You sure you got the right room here,
smart.
Dakota?
Yeah. He's smartest friends. Yeah. Well, I don't have very many friends. So you're already like up there. But Ethan is a killer when it comes to CRO, conversion rate optimization. And I've had the pleasure, my team has had the pleasure of working with Ethan and his team on a lot of different brands. So I was like, dude, we got to just get on and talk about conversion rate optimization in the context of paid ads, what's working right now, all that good stuff. So that's the chat we're going to have today. But to start it off, Ethan, I want to know like why CRO? Like why are you even in CRO in the first place? Like tell us kind of your journey from paid into CRO.
Definitely. Well, first off, thanks for doing this. This is gonna be a ton of fun, and now we get to like actually record the conversations that we have like at the
That we already
background.
had.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like the deep layer,
Yeah.
the layer dwelling conversations.
Hey,
So
that's what I told Tobias. I was like, we got to get the group chat out of WhatsApp and onto Twitter so that the
correct.
world can kind of like learn, because there's a lot of good stuff in there.
That's exactly right. It's only missing my monkey stickers, and that's it.
That's
So,
right.
I got started in marketing back in end of 2014, like beginning of 2015. I ran my first paid ad, which actually, funny enough, was a YouTube ad and Facebook ad like a month or two after that.
Thing.
And I was like, "Oh, this is cool." I mean, like super long story short, basically, I was like, I wanted to start my own business, and I didn't know what. I kind of fell into it,
Yeah.
and then paid paid media like felt very interesting to me because I love math and I love people. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of like literally media buying is basically the combination of that. It's like, how do we just, work with psychology at scale, essentially?
Yeah.
Um, and then the numbers tell the story and the numbers tell the narrative, et cetera. So I kind of did everything at the beginning, from, info, digital product type stuff, e-commerce, lead gen, just, how that goes like at first.
Yeah.
And, you know, my I always not preferred, but I always really liked what happened post click. And so we
Sure.
always worked with clients on VSL structure, landing page structure, offer structure, et cetera. And we always had helped with split testing in that context. But
Mhm.
back in 2021, we kind of made the full transition to CRO only, and
Yeah.
not really helping as much with paid.
What was
Uh,
like was it, yo, I'm sick of the clients in paid, or was it like, I just want to focus, I'd rather double down on something that I enjoy more. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, because I'm obviously a paid guy, so I'm biased toward
yeah.
paid, but at the same time, I am frustrated with paid half the time. So I'm curious if like it stemmed from like business issue, or if you were just like, wait, actually, there's an untapped market here in the CRO side.
So I would say it actually kind of came from two portions of it. At that point, um, we kind of like creative testing was always one of the things that we preached the most way back
Yeah.
when, like before it was even like before every it was like in like the general
Before it was cool.
lexicon before it was cool.
Yeah.
We were always saying creative testing, creative testing, creative testing.
Yeah.
Around that time, it started to get harder without creative production. And so we were kind of like at an impasse or at a
Yeah.
fork in the road of we either start to build out this creative production team, either
Mhm.
editors, et cetera. Or I did see a gap in the market within CRO, specifically in info digital, high ticket, application funnel, et cetera, type
Yeah.
businesses, or we just go down that route. And I chose that route. That's what we did. I'm glad that we did it.
Because you were running ads for like e-com stuff mostly, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
yeah, which like to do creative variation, to your point, it's like, okay, we need like some studio space
Yes.
and they need to ship us product, and it's a whole
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And honestly, like that just it's not my strong suit. I didn't feel that that was like something I wanted to build out. So by the same token, against this, we always helped on the site and within the funnel side of things. Um, it kind of was just like, well, let's just do only this now. And we doubled down on that and it's gone well. So
Yeah. But yeah,
good to see.
clearly, dude. Like it's been so fun because like we do some CRO, right? Like
Yeah, right. As
every
we
good
do
ad
like
team
some
should.
ads, yeah, like as we do some like ads consulting or whatever. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
exactly, right? And so when brands bring us on and they're like, "But wait, we wanna test out like 10 net new funnels and we want like, we want the newest and greatest sort of like CRO testing frameworks essentially." Like I'm never like, "Hey, we don't know a guy, like ultimately, like I'm like my team will basically say, yeah, we're gonna do CRO on the funnels we run. But the
Of
problem
course.
is what I've found, at least with the offers we run with, they don't typically have like a director of marketing, or they don't have someone like internal sitting and thinking through net new projects. And that's what I love about your guys' team, because like you come to the table with an idea for something that you see work elsewhere, and then you actually create the thing like net new and then CRO until it's like crushing, right?
Yep.
So like I guess my question for you is, where is the biggest lever to pull typically on the projects you work with? Like if you were to come into any old info business, like where do you kind of start as like a baseline of like, I know this is gonna lift something, right?
For sure. So it's in two places. Number one, like one of the ways that we perform CRO, and slight like asterisk, this will be like my like marketing mechanism thing, is
Yeah.
we call it conversion revenue optimization, because
Ooh, okay.
conversion rate is a little bit of a misnomer. This kind of comes more from the e-com side of things. Conversion rate optimization is a little bit of a misnomer because I can increase somebody's conversion rate right now, which is drop price by 99%. There you go.
Sure.
Like done.
Yeah.
So obviously a ridiculous example that is not, that no
Yeah.
one's actually
You're
going
gonna
to
get
do.
more conversions. Yeah.
You will get more conversions and it will be optimized. You know what I mean? But we don't want to do that. So the point is that we need to balance average order value, lifetime value, um, client value, right? As
Hmm.
well. And ultimately, again, profit per visitor is really what we're optimizing long
For
term.
sure.
So the first thing that I look to do whenever we're coming into a funnel is optimize from inside out. So basically bottom of the funnel to the top of the funnel. The reason why is because, well, twofold. One, when we have people that are very, very close to booking a call, let's say just in the context of a traditional kind of like application funnel, book a call funnel. When you have people that are on the calendar page or about to book a call, that's as close as they're going to be at that point until they get on the call, right? Then
Yeah.
it's more of a sales side of things. But when they're on that booking page, we have them right there. So to lose them at that point becomes devastating, actually.
Right.
They're very, very, very close. So the quickest wins generally are right there. And then we work up the funnel from there. So whether
Mhm.
there's, let's say, calendar page, then onto, say, the SL page, then onto landing page. In a lot of cases, we do that. Now, that being said, every situation is unique. And there are plenty of times where we start with landing page. Plenty.
Yeah.
But I like to think about that first because it's the quickest win. It's the quickest way to get more calls onto closers' calendars. And really, more than anything, is I like to affect quality more than volume. So we can talk
Yeah,
about
that's a
that.
really good point. I think about ads that same way, right? Like especially given the like the new updates, like the Andromeda update and sort of like the creative variety that Meta's wanting. Like I'm constantly telling people like not all clicks are good clicks, right?
Yes.
Like we actually want to refine down who is clicking on our ad. Like we want the top of funnel to not be so broad on a lot of these conversion campaigns because of what you just said. Is like if I'm really looking for revenue optimization here, like I don't want to spend money on clicks that are not going to go on to convert. And the same as with conversion rate optimization. Like people think that a higher throughput number is better almost by default, but there's a lot of cases where it's not. You're actually like ruining your algorithm on the ad side by letting too many people through. So like how do you approach that conversation? I mean, do you agree with that? I guess is my first question. Like, do you agree that bigger is not always better, or like more is not always better from a conversion rate optimization standpoint?
100%. And it's a balance. Like obviously if we can do more leads, more calls, more sales, and better quality leads, calls, and sales, of course we
Great.
try to do that.
Yeah.
Um, but it is something where sometimes there's a trade-off to be made. So,
Yeah.
and all that it comes down to is I like to think about this stuff like a force, like force vectors from physics, basically. So we have an upward force and we have a downward force, right? So if we have an upward force on quality, generally there's going to be a downward force on quantity. And it's
Yeah.
just which vector is bigger. So if this is way up and this is like a little bit down, great. There we go. Like that's a win.
Yeah.
So it's just this net.
You're like moving the lever,
Yes.
like on a basic,
Yeah,
like the is it called the fulcrum? I feel like it's called the
exactly.
fulcrum.
Always definitely
You
called the
move
fulcrum.
you move that, right? See, I told
That's
you
exactly
guys this
right.
is my smart friend. I told you he's bringing out vector physics while talking about conversion rates.
It
I
really is
do.
just, I sound smart. I'm an idiot.
No,
So,
no. So no, but your point is true. It's like throughput is not always better. Like for example, I always use the dumb example of like if I'm calling out a specific business type, like in my ad, that's who I want to click my ad.
Yes.
Same way as like if my application form, if I know an MQL is only somebody who has revenue above 100K a year in their business, like I only want them to make it
Yes.
through. So like conversion rate is not, or, essentially like throughput is
Yeah.
not always determined on just volume. It's quality as well. Is there a metric or something like, I guess, how do you tell that to business owners and what do you tell them to start tracking in order to like
Yes.
understand if the tests you guys are doing are like actually lifting results or not?
So there are a couple of different ways that I like to look at this, and like 15 things came to my mind whenever you
Yeah.
said the last sentence. So I want to make sure to bring up a couple of them. I want to talk about like one of the signature tests that we always run, that clients always love. Number two is I want to talk about basically like the golden metric for CRO as we see it, which is
Okay.
incremental revenue. And you can bring that back up funnel as well. So we have incremental revenue, incremental calls, incremental leads. So
Okay.
I guess incremental sales, if you want to say that too.
Yeah, I'm
Some
ready
type
for
of
the
like
explain like I'm five version.
okay. So every time that you run a split test, again, the foundation of all CRO is split testing,
Yep.
right? So we want half the people to see version A, half the people to see version B. Um, Makes sense. Now the key is you need to track those people all the way through. Let's use again in the context of a full sales, a sales funnel essentially of ad click, opt in, book a call, phone sale. So I don't really care if opt-in rate changes between the control and the variant that much. And I'll tell you why. Again, this is your throughput thing. So in a lot of cases, more throughput on the opt-in just means that we reduced friction or we're actually messaging to a lower qualified lead. So one of the signature tests that we run is changing messaging on opt-in. Opt-in rate stays the exact same or within, call it 10%. And when I say 10%, that's a relative percentage, meaning that let's say that the control is giving an opt-in at 19%, the variant might be anywhere between 18 and 20%. So no real significant difference there. Um, Yet at the same time, with better messaging, and we can talk about how to find that better copywriting messaging, you will find 20, 30, 40% increase in calls and 20, 30, 40% increase in back-end sales. That's my favorite test of all time to run because it didn't, I mean, it sounds intuitive, like we understand this, which is something different on the front end affects the back end. The problem is that when we're in the weeds of a funnel, we're running ads, we literally forget sometimes that we're talking to people.
Hmm.
We see
Yeah,
it
you're
as
only looking at the
impressions.
data.
We
Yeah.
see CTR. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We see opt-in rate, and it's like, yeah, but it's a person. So who's opting into this is really important. And the easiest way to do that, from both a meta perspective and paid ads perspective, but also from the psychology perspective of who's actually opting in, is literally just changing your messaging.
Right. So then you're basically like, let's say you run a test, right, where you're changing some of these downstream things. Lead cost doesn't change. Like none of the essential like front end conversion metrics
Sure.
change too much. What do you like? You and the business owner are sitting down and basically saying, "Hey, look, revenue per click is up," or like
Basically.
what is
Yep.
the main like like revenue on the back end, right, for the
For
same
sure.
amount of ad spend? Like ROAS would be a good way to look at it, probably, but
Yeah.
yeah,
There we can slice it a bunch of different ways. And it actually kind of sometimes it really just depends on who's asking. So if the
yeah,
director of sales is asking, director of marketer is asking, or business owner is asking, it's
right,
the same number just presented in a different way.
yeah,
Right. So sometimes, like, say, for example, like, let's use ROAS actually, right?
yeah,
ROAS is revenue over ad spend. It's also AOV over CPA.
right,
So it's the same thing, but like they presented differently. Sometimes you can kind of glean different insights from it. So
so
business owners sitting down and they're like, okay, which variant or should we run the control or the variant? Which one wins? First thing I'm going to is literally just incremental revenue that's coming from it. So let's say that the control generated $100,000 in revenue during a 2-week test, and the variant generated $150,000 during the 2-week test. There's $50,000 in incremental revenue right there. Multiply that by 2, basically, because you're going to be running that for twice during the month. And now you're getting another multiplied by 2 again, because you're getting not 50% of the traffic, but 100% of the traffic to that over the course of the month. There's $200,000 in month incremental revenue coming from that. Business owners like, yes, love it, run it.
yeah,
Okay. So that's way number one. If I'm talking to a director of sales, they're going to care about that as well. They're also going to care about call efficiency. So sometimes we can get that exact same result without increasing calls. And actually, funny enough, earlier this week, that happened in a mutual client of ours in a
yeah,
test that we were running. calls really didn't increase that much, yet sales on the back end
Yeah,
had
way
like a
up.
40 or 50% increase.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a
Those are
great
my
point.
favorite tests to run.
Yeah, and if the business owner's asking in that case, you're like, "Well, would you rather make more money or not?" Right? Like,
Exactly.
it's pretty straightforward what wins. It's like profit is up
Yes.
from this test. Great. Call costs might not even be down, but profit is up. Like, close rate went way up, right? And I think that, honestly is like that's one of those things that even in my like, the prospecting conversations I have with people, like, if we're kind of exploring the relationship and seeing if we're gonna be good to fit together, and I'm sure you're the same way. I'm always like describing our agency as like more of a full funnel agency because like I ultimately don't care what my ads metrics look like click through rate, CPMs, like those front end metrics. I really don't care. I'm not in on the vanity metrics almost at all.
Yep.
If I know that I can see on the back end like the results, right? And that's the funny thing is like I always talk about similar to you, like the baseline test that we run when we get into an ad account is almost always like switch the optimization event, right?
Yeah.
Because like from all things created equal, like I know that most ad teams are not optimizing deep enough in the funnel or they're not sending through the right data to like get the right conversions. And so it's so simple because I usually get in there, it's like, oh, they're optimizing toward lead. Well, lead is not really what they want. They want calls or sales. So let's just switch it to calls. And like 9 times out of 10, results just get better. They look worse. CPMs
Yes.
are higher, click through, cost per click is higher, right? Like, but we're getting the right people through now. And like, or young marketers don't really grasp that as much because maybe it's because they haven't run a business, or maybe it's because they don't really understand like on the back end what actually matters. But like when you can communicate that effectively, like you just did, I think business owners are way more likely to trust you with their money because they understand that you're just trying to make them a return, like actual bottom line revenue or bottom line profit or top line revenue for their business. So yeah, dude, I love that. We're so
And
aligned on that.
it's funny because it's one of the first times that we met, I think we talked about funnel optimization, or sorry,
Yeah.
optimization events within the context of Meta. And again, that's one of my core beliefs is optimize for the thing that you want. It's not that lead
Right.
optimization never has a place. It's just that if you want purchases, optimize for purchases. Like Meta is very good at getting you what you want. So anyway,
Exactly.
that's like one of the first times whenever we talked, I'm like, yes, like we
Yeah,
agree on
dude.
this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so tell me, I'm sure you've run into this a lot of times. And actually I remember a tweet you put out like a while ago
Yep.
because not as active as you should be on Twitter. Just
I
saying.
know, I know,
You
I
got a
know.
lot, you got a lot of gems to
I know.
share. But basically I think you were saying I stopped trying to predict what split test is gonna win. So
Yeah.
like even after split, like all you do all day is split
Yep.
test stuff. You still feel that you can't actually predict a winner, or like tell me more about what you think about that.
For sure. So I think I might be mangling my own quote, but it's something like literally have no idea what test is going to win anymore, like
Yeah.
which version is going to win, and I don't. It's not that I don't have an idea or a prediction or a favorite or whatever. It's just that I actually have very I have very low predictive power, meaning that I'm right half the time and I'm wrong half the time.
Right.
Um, and guess what? Honestly, half the tests that we run, so half the tests that we run are winners on average. Half the tests that we run are, you could say, losers, but generally what that means is no significant improvement. So
Yeah.
basically they tied or they lost. And the trick is I don't know which 50% is which.
Right.
If I did, we wouldn't need to test. But
Right.
if you honestly, like, if you look back 5, 6 years and you ask me, all my answers now, like today, aside from like frameworks and testing process, are generally like, I don't know, let's test it. So that's like the real answer is always, I don't know, let's test it. There are, of course, like, oh, a broken button. Should we split test this? No. You know what I mean?
Right.
Aside from like the pedantic, like those types of examples.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I've just seen so much data
Mhm.
and so many different tests where, oh, this is obviously going to win, and then it doesn't.
Right.
And you're just like, wow, okay. Split testing is one of those things where, like, I think it's just one of the coolest things in marketing. And really, actually, like I say it all the time, like if I get split test life, that'd be the coolest thing ever.
For real.
It's like, hey, like I got this joke I'm gonna say. I don't know if it's gonna go over well. Like, let's go the control. I don't say it, and the variant I do say it. But
Yeah.
that's the reality. Like, think back 30, 40, 50 years ago when people are running marketing campaigns, they have to put a billboard up, or they're literally doing a direct mail campaign.
Yeah.
Um, let's say billboard actually, because direct mail, I guess you technically could split test, but billboard, you can't split test a billboard. It's just like, here's the headline. That's it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now we
Yeah.
can literally say, hey, show half of people this, show half of people this, and we can track the entire thing. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. So I don't know, you know, it's
It
just
is.
really, really cool.
Yeah, it's like in the fact that, I think the fact that you admit that you don't know which test is gonna win, like,
Yeah.
obviously none of us do, but the fact that you admit it is cool because I think there are a lot of people that approach our world with a lot of ego. It's like, "No, no,
Yes.
no, trust me, my way is best."
Yep.
When in reality, like, nobody knows, man.
No.
Nobody knows. And
No. No. No.
if you can't agree that nobody knows, that's a red flag for me because I've been wrong enough times in the ad account to know like, okay, cool. I'm sure I might know more than man on the street that's never run an ad before,
Sure.
but like the market tells us what works, right? Like, and we have to
That's the
test
cool
it
thing.
to get there. Yeah. So that's
That's
dope,
the cool
dude.
thing.
What about, so I've seen you do this before and I think it's really cool, but I think it breaks conventional CRO rules. So
Yes.
there are times where we've been on a call together with a client, like a mutual client, and it's been sort of the thing where you're like, I don't even think we need to split test this. Let's just do that,
Yep.
right? Tell me how you arrived to that conclusion, because I think like most people that don't understand split testing or how to actually get data that like helps them make informed decisions, they just do that, and we call it cowboy split test at ad class. It's
Right.
like, we're just gonna like go out and try something because, it's not currently working. We want to try something new. But how do you decide like when you're going to just go all out on something new or when you're going to like incrementally split test to get to that thing?
Yes. So a couple of different factors. Number one, like again, the first thing that come to mind is like like the midwit bell curve type of thing.
Yeah.
So on the left side is like, don't test it, just set it live. In between is test everything, including the button color in a different shade of green. And
Right.
then the Jedi side is don't test it, just run it type of thing.
Just send it live. Yeah.
I'm firmly in the midwit, no, I'm kidding. But I think about it from a couple different factors. Factor number one is, do we have enough traffic or are we going to get enough data coming through this as a test for it to provide a meaningful result? What
Sure.
I mean by that is this. If we're running a VSL to book a call to sales call, right? And let's say that in this scenario, like this funnel is new and it's getting like 10 calls a week. I'm not going to split test something because the chance of random variation of the control getting 9 calls and the variant getting 4 calls, and it's like, oh, there were more calls this week, but the control
Right.
just got 9. It's like literally that's coin flip. We
Yeah.
can't actually
Not
we can't
significant.
detect it. Yeah. The number one is amount of data,
Yeah.
which is what we're trying to optimize for.
Yeah.
Number two is actually time constraints sometimes. So sometimes we don't have the luxury of split testing because the cost of a split test every single time that you run one is you are sending traffic to a worse performing variant. Unless they're exactly performing the exact same, you are sending traffic to an underperforming variant. Now,
Yeah.
generally, that's going to be your control because we're trying to beat the control, right? So
Right.
think about that. That's actually another point. It's
That's
gonna be
really
slight.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Even if you have a winning test, you are still wasting
Yes.
potentially half of the budget on a losing test, even if that is
Yep.
your control.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so one of the ways that this sometimes freaks people out is whenever you get a winning split test, let's say that it's again an opt-in and you got 20% higher opt-ins, 20% higher calls, 20% higher sales. You can also think of it as, wow, we've been wasting 20% of ad spend for the past 6 months that this has been a control. I don't like to say that because that like sometimes like it sounds the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it's taking like the negative side of it.
That
But
is
the
true.
truth is that like, yeah, there's a missed opportunity, you know?
Yeah.
So for cowboy split testing, number one is, are we gonna get enough data? Number two is basically, do we have enough time to run this properly? So
Yeah.
mutual projects that we worked on, recently, or let's say like any type of challenge funnel, anything that is like has a compressed time period where there's a live thing. Sometimes we don't have the luxury of split testing it, or if we do, it's only for like one day. We get
Yeah.
some data rather than no data, and you gotta run with the variant or run with the just
Yeah, and absolutely. That's a really great answer. I think one follow-up question on it would be like in there are a lot of people running webinar funnels right now, right?
yes,
Especially in the info space. It's becoming it's becoming very avant-garde to be a webinar funnel guy again, which is cool because I've been running webinar funnels for
Yep.
6 years. But I'm back, baby. But what I think is interesting from a like CRO standpoint on those funnels is that there's this delay, right? And
Yep.
it's for ads too. Like I this is something I have to train my team on, which is essentially like, okay, we could run ads for a week, then the webinar actually happens, and then the sales cycle from that is another 14 days, right? So
Yep.
we don't actually know. We could run an ad today that gets a click and a registrant for the webinar. That person could show up in a week, and then it could be another 14 days until they close. So
Yep.
I can't really make an informed decision on whether or not the ad that generated that click is a good ad or a bad ad, or I can't really optimize it for 3 weeks essentially, because I need to know, did a sale come from that ad, right? And if we're
Yep.
talking about full funnel, it's really important to be able to see that. So from a CRO standpoint, kind of talk me through like how you look at that too, because like when there's a delay sometimes, like you mentioned the like a live launch or something
Sure.
like that, you don't actually know if you're like, maybe you get an increase in throughput on the funnel, but you don't actually know if that increased revenue downstream because the
Yep.
event hasn't happened yet and the sales calls haven't happened yet, right?
And so I think all marketing is art and science mix, right? It is what it is. Like there is a feel portion of it of like, for example, I'm like as an expert media buyer, how an account feels. And that when you put a new ad up and you're like, "Mm, this ad, like I have a feel on this account. I know that this ad's not going to work, or I know
Yep.
that this ad's going to work." You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Really
It's the
early on.
same very early on. And so there's partially that. So for example, like you have to take a little bit of, this is where sometimes we have to like take like the marketing data cap off and kind of put like the common sense cap on in certain
Yeah.
cases. Um, I'll give an example. Like if you are running a test for a challenge and let's say that the control has no bonuses that you're giving, for example, to opt in, and the variant has $100 Amazon gift card giveaway type thing.
Right.
Throughput's going to increase from that, but the common sense is like, I don't know if this is going to back out into sales because we're probably getting the
Yep.
wrong people.
Right. Yeah.
So
The
there's got
people
to be a
didn't
little
get
bit
a
of common sense.
$100 Amazon gift card. Yeah.
Correct. The reality is that we don't know what's going to work. So you have to, again, this is why I do like multi-layered decision making for split test winners. There are times where you don't get any significant increase in sales
Hmm.
on the back end. However, you do get an increase in leads. And sometimes business owners like that if they have a big launch coming up.
Right.
They like that if it's right before Black Friday. They like that if a bunch of new SDRs are starting and they need more leads to call. So
Yep.
it's all context. My favorite word in marketing and probably in life is context.
Yeah.
Because actually one winner for one business is a loser for another business. Let's say that we have
Right.
a completely supply constrained business. The sales team has no time. They don't need more calls. So a split test that gets them more calls actually is a bad
Helpful. Right.
it's a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want to increase efficiency.
Right. That's a really good point, man. Yeah, context and nuance are
Yeah.
like two things that the world could use more of, probably, including
Yeah.
marketing. Yeah,
Under the world umbrella. You know what I
under
mean?
the like, just everybody needs this
Yeah.
umbrella. Um, yeah, really, really good point. I think like, so I'm curious. This is kind of off script a little bit, but I'm reading this book, and it's about generalists, right? Versus specialists, and I think it'd be a kind of a fascinating topic for us because while we are specialists, quote unquote, in our
Yeah.
fields, like respective to ads and CRO, I would argue that you are probably more of a generalist, and I am definitely more of a
100%.
generalist. Like I've always told people, like I want to know like 10% about 90% of the things, right? Like,
Yep.
but I'm not really I don't really care about knowing 90% about 10% of the things, right? Like I want to be able to
Yep.
relate to people. And I'm reading a book about it now. It's bad. I can't remember the name of the book right now, but I'll put in the description after this. But the concept is essentially that to be successful today, being a generalist is a lot more important. But I'm curious your perspective on that because, well, first off, tell me, do you think you're a generalist? I'm putting you in that box because I think you are, but
I
I'm
do too.
curious your thoughts on that.
I definitely do. Definitely a generalist. I think that I have, so maybe Tim Ferriss said this like super long ago, but it's basically like if you are top 10% in field one, top 10% in field two, and top 10% in field three, you're actually like top 0.1% at the intersection of those fields type
Mm,
of thing.
Sure.
So I kind of think that I'm definitely a generalist. Like half of our business is e-commerce
Yeah.
clients, half of our business is like high ticket info digital clients.
Yep.
I think being a generalist just for my personality type and what works is most exciting. It's also what I'm really good at because I can take what's working from over here, from this side of the industry, and apply it to that side of the industry
And that's
and vice
that's
versa.
exactly the point, right? It's like, if you like, for example, my background is teaching, right? But like
Yep.
because I taught for a couple of years, I have a skill set at educating my company or talking to my clients in a specific way that I wouldn't have had without that, right? Or
Yep.
because I waited tables at a restaurant for 5 years, I can sell in a way that I wouldn't have been able to, right?
Yep.
And the idea is that when you have this sort of like cross disciplinary approach, or you have interests that are varied beyond the thing that you're in,
Yeah.
you are more likely to succeed at a high level, right? And so yeah, like what you said is true. It's like you can take something that's working in sort of an unrelated field, and it will probably work in marketing, right? And your understanding of that is because you have interests that are broad, right?
Exactly. 100%. And I think that for what we do, um, and at the end of the day, it's like marketing in a lot of ways is just kind of like changing the way that somebody feels in order to
Yeah,
make them make a decision one way or the other,
yeah,
or influence a decision. Um, that's where like understanding people and psychology and everything like that is extremely important because that's
yeah,
all that we're doing is just at scale. Rather than talking to somebody directly, we're basically trying to have that conversation 1,000 times a minute on
for
either
real.
written word or video.
So you said something to me before, which is why I think you're a generalist, right? Well,
Yeah.
first off, I know that you're into music, right?
Yes.
So that's a big one. But you said to me, I think it was on a text, you were like, most good, I want to say, I'm going to
Mhm.
paraphrase. Most good marketers are also musicians or have some musical ability.
Yes,
I think you said that. So
I did.
tell me why.
So all of the, I shouldn't say all, but a very, very, very disproportionate amount of the best marketers that I know either started out in music, continue to make music, or were musicians, like etc.
Yeah.
In some form or fashion.
Yeah.
In my opinion, music is the ultimate thing that causes somebody to feel something else. Essentially, people like use music in that sense. They listen to music to feel happy,
Yeah.
to wallow, to whatever, right? To
Right.
take them back to a specific time in their childhood, whatever.
Yep.
So a very high disproportionate amount of the very best marketers I know do that. And again, ultimately for me, music is you're trying to make somebody feel the way that you're feeling or make
Mhm.
somebody feel differently than how they're feeling. But usually it's like, hey, I'm feeling this way. I made this music. I want somebody else to feel that way too.
For sure. That's
And that's
interesting.
kind of what
It's
marketing is.
marketing.
It's
Yeah.
marketing. And so it's weird because a lot of times people think that they're at odds with each other because in a lot of cases, it's like, oh, like musicians, they don't know anything about business or artists don't know how to market themselves and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I do get it from that perspective. But at the
For
same time,
sure.
too, though, the core principles of marketing, and I think this is why you see a lot of like the top people. Um, I don't know if we want to throw
Sure.
names.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking of people like Blake Wyatt. I'm thinking of people like Nick Fisher.
Yeah.
Like these are people that have, and of course, like now that I brought out names, I'm gonna forget 10 other people, but these are two people that I
Sure.
just literally talked about earlier today, so they're in my mind.
Yeah.
Um, these are people that play music and are at the top of their field, top of their game. And so it's a very interesting thing. Ryan is another one.
Yep.
Ryan Kelly was actually a client, unbelievably natural marketer, PhD pianist. So it's
Crazy.
just
Yeah.
it's fascinating to me. It's one of the things that I think
I've noticed the same thing. Like, well, yeah, Fisher is one that comes
yeah,
to mind for sure. Just, but like, not even musicians though. Like, people who just have an interest in
correct.
music. Because,
Correct.
like, sure, I can play and sing, whatever. But I've also always had sort of like a photographic memory when it comes to music. Like, I
Yeah.
will hear a song once or twice, and I will know the song, right? And like for me, it's sort of like a thing. Like I'm always playing music, always listening to music. I'm very interested in sort of the music scene, but like I wouldn't consider myself a musician. However, I do think like what you just said about like the emotional side of it is really interesting. I've never thought of it that way, where essentially like you are trying to, you're almost persuading someone with music, right?
Yeah.
It's like Even if you were talking about like an EDM show or something, it's like
Yeah,
the whole point of this is that we all feel the same way, right? Like we're
exactly.
all vibing on the same sort of wavelength.
Yeah.
That's interesting, man.
Yeah, it's like, and this is again, my bias comes out with this, but uh, for again, for me, I think I don't know what combination it is or what have you, but music is probably one of the fastest and easiest ways to change like emotional state,
Oh, sure.
um,
Or even beliefs.
or beliefs. 100%. Like, and this is where it's like you can read something in a book, but then like you hear it in a song, you're like, oh, that's what I'm talking about. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
So as a personal example, like
Okay.
I like all music. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that like, oh, no, I really do. I like all music. Like in high school, I was into like hardcore metal and
Yep.
rap and Christian music and what like I like it all.
Everything. Yep.
In the summers, I listen to country, a lot of country.
Yeah.
And still because I like all music. And country makes me feel like I'm back home in the Midwest, like,
Yeah.
no, not a care in the world. But the belief thing is so true because half of country music is about drinking. I mean,
Yep.
at least half, right? And I stopped drinking last year.
Yeah.
But when I listen to some country songs, I'm like, man, a beer sounds really good. You know what I mean? And it's like
I
it's
know.
reframing my belief around it where I'm like, man, I would be a lot happier if I just had a beer. All
Yep.
like because all the songs are just talking about it. So I have found that I'm like, man, I can't really listen to as much country as not because I have an unhealthy obsession with alcohol. I stopped
Yeah.
for other reasons. However, like I don't really want to start drinking again. And these songs are making me want to,
No.
right? It's such an interesting thing because you actually start to think about parents like sort of controlling,
I know.
the music your kids can listen to. And I'm like, they kind of got a point. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
this
I
does
know.
actually shape their beliefs.
And it's really interesting too because like, you know, I'm I think that if it shapes things positively, in theory, the inverse is also true. It can shape things negatively.
Right.
So to say that it doesn't, to say that like, oh, music is so powerful and it has this effect and blah blah blah, but to not say like it can't have a negative effect
Right.
as well. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Like
So yeah, I mean,
if your 12-year-old's listening to Pusha T, like
yeah,
you might need to watch out. You know what I mean? There might be an operation in the closet that you don't know about. All I'm trying to say is like
not a
it does
chemistry class.
affect you.
Like that's not what that beaker is for.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, dude. Chemistry class is gonna be dangerous.
Yeah,
Dude, it's interesting. I do agree. It'd be fun to make a list of all the top marketers and whether or not they're into music because I think we
yeah.
would find that there is a correlation for sure.
And I think, and I don't want to derail it like too much on this, just because I don't know if anybody's gonna be interested in this or not. But
Yeah,
who
I
cares?
am.
Okay, we can cut this out if we need to.
Sure.
Um, I think it's like lyric writing is copywriting.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah.
stories, word choice, like the way that something flows together is just like, and I think that copywriters, again, I go both directions with this because like half the time I'm like, yeah, people don't read anything anyway. But then the other
Right.
half is like, yeah, but the people who do read, it actually really impacts the decision. And
Yeah.
so, you know, when you read lyrics, when you listen to lyrics and how things are said,
Yeah.
the tone with which something is said, it literally
Yeah.
just has such an impact on it. You know what I mean?
And the emotion, the sort of like
Yes.
real raw emotion you can pull
Yeah.
out with good writing. I mean, I was a big poetry kid. Like I always was writing like poetry and creative writing. That was like my stuff in high school. And it led me to be a pretty good marketer because I was like have always thought about how words can convey meaning. And I would argue that like copywriting is one of those things where it's like if you do have a background in like English class writing in high school and like you were good at that, copywriting is going to come naturally. Whereas if you don't have that, it is like that uphill battle. And I would argue that like music is sort of that meeting of sort of like art and science as well, right? That you were
Yeah.
talking about, where it's like the best marketers can do both. They can
Yep.
look at a spreadsheet and see the trends, and they can get into a Word doc and make like a really good piece of copy, right? Like
Exactly.
it's two of like different sides of your brain working together to produce something that actually resonates with people. Which is rare. I mean, I think it's a unicorn sort of situation that somebody has that, but those are the best marketers.
Yeah. That's why I love it because you can literally take something that happens on a sales call, which is a one-to-one conversation. But
Yep.
that person who's on the other side of the sales call is pretty similar to probably like 1,000 other people that are in your market. You say one line that they take could be your next new winning headline on your op.
Yep.
So you're
Seriously.
taking that one conversation and now you're applying it to 10,000 new people who are seeing it.
Yep.
So it is a data point, right? But at
Right.
the same time too, though, it's not just a number. It's a data point, but not there. It's not limited to being a number.
Love that. Okay, tell me this. So we talked a little bit about the generalist thing. One of the things that I'm thinking about there is like, okay, if you are a good generalist, you now have tools at your disposal with AI and all the crazy stuff happening that can sort of like turn your general knowledge of a topic into very hyper specific sort of like outcomes, right? So imagine a world where, 10% about 90% of the things, AI can actually be the like doer for all of those disciplines for you that kind of like gets you past the finish line. So I'm curious your take on like I want to bring that discussion into like team structure, right? Because I've always been fascinated by like how you run your team.
Yep.
But it seems like you guys don't have like a huge team and yet you're able to be in all places at all times. I'm wondering like what tools you are kind of like learning in the CRO side, like what
Yep.
things are making you more efficient and also maybe even just ideal team structure for like a CRO team,
Yep.
right?
So CRO is a little bit. It's a little bit more difficult to run with a leaner team because you need to have basically you need to have like at least 3 people, or if there's one person who do all of it, then they're a legend. But and I
Yeah.
want a person, please, like please introduce them to me. Um, but basically, you need a strategist who is honestly effectively like in the best scenarios, they're somebody who is a business owner or is a CMO type. They need to be able to again what we do and what I really, really like pride ourselves on doing is not just split testing. It's split testing for a purpose. Does this make the business holistically better? And does this drive forward enterprise value, profit, etc.? Like, does it drive forward business goals? So again, when I'm thinking about split tests, I'll tell you about one cool one actually real quick, and then I promise I'll get back to it. But so one cool one that we ran with a client was effectively a pricing split test. And we wanted to know, does this impact back-end ascension rate? So say like a 49 versus $97 price point on a challenge. Um, Again, this is one of those things that you're not going to know when you're running them. If
Right.
you're only letting people register for like 2 weeks, for example, um, guess what? Like by the time that back-end ascension happens, the challenge is long gone. So you have to make a
Right.
decision.
Right.
So anyway, we looked back historically about 5 or 6 months after, and the LTV for higher price was 4 times higher, um, and conversion
Crazy.
rate was only about 15% lower. So that's an example. Like we always,
Because
that
if you would have judged it just on conversion rate, it's a loss, right?
correct. Well, actually, no, not really. Oh yeah, so just on conversion rate, it's a loss. If you're judging it on revenue per visitor, in that it's a win because it was double the price, but
Double
only
the price.
15% loss.
Right.
So, but yeah, if you're
So
again, that's yeah, if it's just on conversion rate, that's a loser for sure. You're like,
right,
and
right.
actually,
Like,
again,
but cart value over like cart value went up. So
yeah,
so
but
I see.
but I mean, let's go into that rabbit hole for a second if you
Yeah,
don't mind.
yeah,
So let's talk about day one, day one profitability versus day 30 profitability.
right.
So that this is actually a very tricky one because it's very multivariate. So we
Yeah,
have day one net cost per acquisition.
right.
So let's say that we're getting $100 CPA and $80 AOV. We're minus
Okay.
20, right?
Yep.
In scenario two, let's say they're getting $120 CPA and $100 AOV, right? So we're still minus 20. It's flat.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a scenario though, but for the same ad spend, the control is getting more buyers.
Yeah.
So if we're spending $5,000 a day in ads and we get $100 CPA versus an $80 CPA, well, the lower CPA just gets more front end volume in.
Right.
In most tests that we run, there's not that big of a difference between front end price and back end ascension within reason. So 19 versus 29 versus 39 generally does not have that much of a difference in ascension rate
Okay.
to back end
Depends
pricing.
probably depends on the ascension price as well, right? Like
It does.
that's the other variant here that's like, okay, if they're sending into $1,000 thing versus a $10,000 thing, right? Like that kind
Exactly.
of as well.
So generally doesn't have that much of an effect. In
Yeah.
this case, it had a massive effect. So 49 versus 97 and a 4 times different effect. So
That's crazy.
conventional wisdom would say, again, you're like, well, we want more volume. So if we know that
Yep.
ascension rate isn't going to be affected that much on the back end, we just want more buyers on the front end for the sales team to work. But there's this, again, sneaky variable that you're not going to know. And this is the problem. You're not going to know what that back-end ascension rate is. So if you just made that
Right.
assumption and you weren't tracking, this is actually the biggest thing is it's not even making the assumption that people miss in. It's just that they don't track the cohort. If you don't track the cohort, you're never going to know.
You're not going to know. Yeah. Right.
So, but if you are, then you have to be careful with the assumption that you make, because I can tell you 6 or 7 other tests where price difference has 0 effect on back-end ascension rate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, another reason to not just like copy and paste tests
Exactly.
into different businesses,
Can't
right?
do it.
Like there's so many contextual pieces that you need to know in order to like even predict what will work. Well, so okay, what was your, before we get back into the team discussion, what was your like takeaway from that? Like, I mean, do you even make a takeaway? Are you forming a hypothesis in your head on why, or are you just like, hey, cool, it works. Let's move on to the next one.
Man, honestly, in that scenario, my hypothesis on it from the beginning was actually, believe it or not, it was based off of day one net cost per acquisition.
Yeah.
I didn't think the conversion rate was going to get cut in half
Right.
by increasing price. So what I thought is exactly what happened. So price effectively doubles, conversion rate only drops by 15%. That's the net win for your day
Just
one
from the front
profitability.
end. Yeah.
Great. And then my secondary hypothesis was, well, if we can increase back end ascension by 10 or 15%, then it's going to make it up for it. And we
Right.
made more money on the front end, and great.
Right.
And again, this is relative 10 or 15%. So if ascension rate was 5%, then it's 5 versus 5.5, not 5 versus.
Right. Right.
Um,
So,
that was
so
my
what is it?
hypothesis.
Is the next split test? Let's raise price again, right? Let's go 47 versus 70, or
And
like,
so I know here's like the next crazy thing with that is you have to look at what's the constraint in the funnel at that point.
yeah,
Here's the other cool thing is like by the time that the next challenge ran, you may not have even had that full data yet.
right.
So this is where like these are my favorite tests to run, just because they get so complex and so multivariate. And sometimes it's like literally like a medical study where you're like, okay, we give half of people placebo, half of people like drug one, and now we're gonna follow them for 2 years and see what
Yeah.
happens before we can even say
Right.
anything. So
Right.
it's annoying. It's annoying in business because you're like, well, yeah, but I want to make the change now.
Right.
But for these, I call these business level tests,
Yep.
right? These are tests that can affect like what you do from literally a top down business
Right.
perspective. So what do you take away from that? And like, what's the next test? I would say, well, what's the constraint? And is pricing the constraint in that? Like, well, is your net cost per acquisition on the front end a problem? If no, and if you're fine from a cash perspective, keep it as is. And there's probably some other
Right.
stuff that we could do. There's probably
Yep.
messaging,
I
positioning.
love that. I love that. That's a dope one,
Also,
dude. That's a cool test.
that one of my favorites.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Okay, so circle back to you said you need at least 3 people. So
Yes.
great CRO team. We've got, no, by the way, that was a great rabbit hole. We should just keep
Sorry,
going
I
down
know.
that. But
Sorry.
just to finish the loop, right? To
Yes.
finish it.
Keep me on track.
Yeah. So
Okay. So
you've got, unless you have a unicorn, who do you need?
you need head of like CRO/CRO strategist who's effectively CMO level type
Yep.
person, ideally, because they need to be able to take into
Or
account
even like
all
a
of these
rev
different
ops
variables.
type person, like somebody that
Yeah.
can like really look at the back end as
Yes.
well. Yeah.
Someone that understands sales, someone that understands copywriting, offer positioning, etc. You need a developer and you need a designer. Although you might be able to get away with not having a designer if the CMO type is good, or if you're running mainly like business level tests or messaging tests. Yeah.
If you're just like, if your client likes ClickFunnels, then you might not need a designer.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically it. So what are we using for AI for and things like that? I mean, a ton of different stuff. My favorite thing these days, actually, believe it or not, is loading as much founder face of the business content into Claude projects as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And using that for copywriting. And my second favorite thing is using sales transcripts or as much like customer communication as possible and putting that into Claude as well for copywriting. Again, I've said this literally probably for as long as I can remember. They actually might have been my first full sentence. I don't know, but your customers will write your copy for you. You just have to listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They
dude,
will.
toddler Ethan was like he was very deeply entrenched in the CRO game,
yes.
in the copywriting game
Everything.
from a young age.
Exactly.
You're right, man. I mean, that's why like people like still one of the best research mechanisms, and you can make deep research do this also on like any of
Yeah.
the AI apps. You can go to Amazon like and basically find books that are like similarly topic to whatever your person is teaching, and then read customer reviews on those books. Like people will tell you how they feel about a topic, right? You just have to find the mechanism to listen to them. And AI can make that so much more effective for sure.
Way more
Uh,
effective.
yeah,
Design, it's not really there yet.
yeah.
Um,
I see people like talking about Lovable and all these other apps. Have you guys like played around with any of those? Like
yeah,
sort of the
all of
no
them.
code? Yeah.
Replit, Lovable, Cursor, etc. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of good in it, but again, from like a pure design perspective, we don't think it's there yet.
Yeah.
Development, it helps a lot with the dev side of things.
Right. Mhm.
Tons with the dev side of things.
Yeah.
So that's where it's very useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that and like also just like caring. That's what we try to do. So yeah, like we're 12-ish people on
Yeah.
the team. Um, and we like to get really, really, really involved with businesses. So Ben, um, Ben who works with me on my team, he says that he likes to be like a virus within businesses and
Mhm.
like in a
Spreading.
positive connotation, which
Yeah.
is like just be in there and be around all things to understand the business as completely as possible because it just makes things easier.
Yeah.
Again, like, you know,
For sure.
if you understand what's happening on the sales side of things, it can make your job a whole lot easier on the marketing side of things.
Yep. Yeah, man, and even just getting the like, being involved in the business gives you buy-in from the team that you would not
Oh,
otherwise
yeah.
have. Like the client vendor relationship and the way that that typically is handled with agencies is like, it leads down the path of not getting any buy-in, and then when something goes wrong, inevitably, which it will,
Yep.
like, there's going to be a path to getting where from where you wanna go to where, where you are to where you wanna go, and there's always,
Yep.
like, something along the way. That buy-in that you get from actually caring and, like, being involved in the team sustains you through those so that you can all get to where you wanna go. I've actually always thought of it like this, like, performance is super important. It's probably 70% of the battle.
Yep.
The other 30 is, like, caring and communicating well, and most agencies focus only on performance and not on the other side, and then when performance has a down month, because you don't
Yep.
have the
Which it
other
always
side.
will.
Yeah, it's always will, especially we're coming into Q4, right? Like, buckle up.
Yep.
When that happens, if you don't have the communication or the caring side, like, good luck, man, because you're gonna get replaced by somebody who does,
Yeah.
is typically the way it works, so I totally agree with you, man. Like, caring goes a long way.
It does. And I think that's one of the things that, of course we have a couple mutual clients. I think that's one of the things that both of our teams have in common.
Yes.
Is that it's very, very rare to find.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why I knew, like, when you were working on a project with Matthew, I was like, "Oh, dude, you're
yeah.
gonna love Matthew." Like, because
Yeah.
he's one
Oh,
of
yeah,
us.
exactly.
He's gonna get in deep,
Yeah.
he's gonna care, and, like, you're gonna be able to contact him at any time, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's just cut from a different cloth, you know?
Yep.
That's cool. Well, dope,
I
dude.
mean,
That I like that team structure. So, basically, if you were to hire an internal team to do CRO, like, only,
yeah.
what is that costing you as a business owner? I mean, it's gotta be 10, 15 grand a month, 20 grand a month, like, just from those
Yeah,
3
minimum.
salaries alone?
Minimum, because the hard part really is finding, this is my opinion, I think the hard part is finding that strategist, so to speak, who can like actually design good tests. When I say the design, I don't mean in Figma. I mean like
No.
what is a worthwhile test to run?
Yeah.
Um Again, button color, I literally cannot believe that I still like say this as a joke and it still applies to that. I thought that everybody would have been like, okay, we get it, type of thing.
Yep.
But it still
Yep.
does. Like I still see people saying like, oh, should we do like this button color or that button color? It's like I promise you there are higher impact tests to run.
Yes.
Like I can assure you, you can find a higher impact test to run.
Right.
So you need to have like the person who understands again enough of what is going to be an impactful test. It's the hardest person to find.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah,
sure, and that's the
15K
context
minimum.
piece. That's
Yeah.
the context piece, like, and that's probably a superpower of working with you too, is that you get to see what works and what doesn't work, right? So
Oh yeah.
you have a backlog of, "Hey, here's all the tests that have ever won in the
Yeah.
history of our agency. Like, one of these is gonna give you a lift probably. Let's start trying,"
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah. And the other thing too is I kind of like, this is where my statistics background actually like cringes partially, but I think I said this earlier on a call. today, but someone very, very smart uh, shortened a super long Ethan tangent into, I think, 5 or 6 words, which is, I would
Yeah.
rather win than know why. And
Mhm.
basically what that means is, in order to make a change, or rather in order to see a change, a large change, you have to make a large change,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So when you're thinking about, do we do one single variable test? First off, you probably don't have enough traffic to actually get a significant result from it.
Yep.
A. B, is that one variable likely to make a difference in your end result? I don't know. This is where we start to get into armchair CRO and armchair theorizing, which I hate, because all that it does is distracts people from doing the actual test.
Yep.
Just run the test. You'll know quicker. There have been cases where, not really recently, but in years past, where a client will want to go back and forth on a test for like 2 or 3 weeks. It's like, guys, like, we could have run the test by this point. Or
Like
no,
we would
like,
know.
there's
Yeah.
no need to say like what this person likes better, what that person likes better.
Yep.
And this is where I just say, like, I don't know. Let's just run it.
So
So
would you say that that's like the biggest pitfall that companies fall into, like on this like testing side, is just like not iterating fast enough?
yeah, usually what happens is people do zero testing whatsoever, and
Yeah.
then let's say they talk with me, or they read content or whatever about CRO, then they get really, really excited about it, and then they want to test everything all at
Yeah.
once.
Right.
Um, and they get really excited about the test, which I love, by the way. They get really excited about the test of like, oh, well, like, let's make this one test perfect. And hey, like, version 1 is ready. Let's change it. Let's edit it, et cetera. Again, I'm not saying that I don't like to iterate on ideation. I love to do that. But it's like, once it's good enough to run as a test, and once everybody kind of feels that it has an impact, or is has good enough chance at potentially making an impact, either good or bad, that's when it's time to run it. So one of the biggest pitfalls is when people get in that like initial starting phase, they get really, really excited and they want the first test to be perfect. Um, there's almost zero correlation. I think sometimes people find this with like organic content, but there's almost zero correlation between how much time you spend on creating a test and performance of the test. It's like people say like, oh, like the best tweets, like literally they were on the toilet, wrote them, and like there it is, it's viral. And it's like, oh,
Yep.
didn't think of that.
Yep.
Same thing with music, actually. There we go. Callback. So a lot of
Good.
times, like people's biggest famous hits, like they wrote in like 15 or 20 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. They were in the flow state, man.
Yep.
That's true, dude. I love it. Well, Ethan, man,
Do
thank
you
you
find the
for.
same thing to
Oh,
cut you
well,
out?
I dude, like I will say this: the best ad I ever wrote. I tweeted about this the other day, actually.
Okay.
Um,
I didn't see it, so I'm not.
Yeah. So I was starting to get a client. I went off on my own. I was trying to get my own first cold client, right? Like, and I had some experience, but like not a lot. And so I went on to the High Roast forum in Facebook, and I was scrolling through posts and just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until I found somebody that had a problem that was like, oh, I can fix that problem. You know what I mean? Like, because I didn't have enough confidence at that point to be like, I'm gonna crush it for anybody. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
very much like, I need to find like the niche, like business owner that I know I can help because I have helped someone like that in the past. So I find this guy, he's a real estate educator. He's awesome. I worked with him, ended up working with him for almost 5 years. Still a great friend of mine. But at the time, I didn't know him, so I cold DM him and I go, "Yo, I'm Dakota. I have a background spending this much on real estate education offers. Like, I think I can help you with your problem. Let's get on a call." So we get on a call, and then from there, I he goes, "Okay, cool. I want you to audit my stuff." And I go, "Okay, sweet." So I send a Loom audit, and then I send a Google Doc. I spent that night. I spent 1 hour that night. It only took me 1 hour writing a cold traffic ad, right? And for whatever reason, I still don't know. Like, I didn't look at any templates or anything. I was just like, I'm just gonna like write something.
Just
I'm
came
just
out
gonna
with it.
try. Yeah.
Yep.
And at that point, I had written copy, but I'm certainly not like the guy you think of when you think of writing copy. Like now I say I'm pretty good, but like then I was not. And so I wrote an ad called The Blue Ocean of Wholesaling. And like I'm telling you, dude, it was like I was inspired by God. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
God that day was like, dude, more people need to wholesale houses. And you are my tool. So I wrote the ad. I sent it over to him. He loves it. We end up working together. He records the ad, and to this day, he's probably still running it. I'll have to check ads library, but
Wow.
dude, it like I track back like multiple millions of revenue from that ad, and like I wrote it in an hour and didn't think anything of it. That wasn't even a client of mine. It was just like a free thing I wrote.
Yep.
So to your point, it's like I could have probably spent days trying to make it perfect and whatever, wouldn't have helped. You know what I mean? Like it just worked. So I don't know. I get where you're coming from, where it's like sometimes you just got to go with your intuition and test something, right?
Yeah. And it is tough because like I sometimes I feel like I just talk out of both sides of my mouth all the time because literally it's like I do see both sides. On the one
Yeah,
side, it's like you don't want to just like come up with like the dumbest test you can think of in 2 seconds and run it.
sure.
But by the same token, you want to spend 10 hours doing it. So it's
Right.
basically like where are you falling at on the spectrum?
Yeah.
Actually, one last final thing. Um, before again, like we could probably do this for like 5 hours.
Right.
One last final thing that I think comes to mind, and this is where people who dislike advice from people or like you think about like any adage or saying or whatever, there's always like
Yeah.
two versions of the saying pretty much. There's like version one that says one thing and version two that says the complete opposite.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Both can be true. Again, it depends on context, but I think more
Yeah.
importantly is it depends on knowing your bias. So let's use split testing as an example here. If you're a perfectionist, then and you know that's your bias, guess what? Go take the piece of advice that says ship more, like do more tests. If you know that you're the type that is gonna yes. If you know you're the type that doesn't take the time to do things and is gonna do them sloppily or whatever, me as well.
Me. Yeah.
Um, it's like, hey, take like 5 or 10 minutes and think this through like a little bit more and then maybe run it.
Yeah.
So I think all advice is good. You have to know your bias, your personal bias.
That's really good. That's a good place to end it, dude, because I think that actually will that's just a good takeaway for everything in business, honestly, is like know your bias,
Yes.
like do the thing that is opposite of your bias, and also find somebody on your team that is the opposite of your bias,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because they're going to be the ones that help push you in that direction. Well,
Yep.
dude, thank you for taking the time, Ethan. We'll have
No,
to
but
do this
thank you for having
again.
me
I
on. This was so
mean,
much fun.
hey, weekly.
Easy.
Let's just run it back. We'll see. But thanks, bro. But I think it'll be valuable for everybody watching. And if you need CRO help specifically, Ethan's your guy. Um, I'll tag him in this video. You can find him. But every business I've ever worked with, like jointly with Ethan, like typically they're the big spenders and the ones that just want to add. Like Ethan is his team comes in and you see the boost. Like it's really cool. So couldn't recommend you guys highly enough for anybody
And
watching.
likewise, I say that ad class is, um, depending on the day, one of the pretty much like the only people that I would trust to run my ads. And again, I say this as somebody like who's run many millions in ads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and
It's
you know
consistent.
ads. So
Yeah.
so that's a good compliment.
They're
You do.
literally one of the only people, or like one of maybe two or three people. But usually on any given day, the only people that I would trust are like
I'm the
what?
only person you would trust to run your ads over 6'4" and that lives in
Yes,
Arizona. Is that
exactly. So
true?
this is for sure. And this is again taking the top 10% of three different things as you're a generalist, Dakota,
Yeah.
and now you're top 0.1%.
There you go. See? I'm basically the only person then in that with
Exactly.
that logic.
One of one.
All right. There we go. All right, we're gonna end it here. Peace.